back again. What's up? I know I said I wouldn't have a post-Raw commentary up until later on this week, but I actually have some time this afternoon, and I checked out most of Raw, and I have a pretty good understanding of what we actually saw take place last night, and Daniel Bryan is a face again. Just like that. Now, there's a lot of speculation why. I'm not saying this is the reason, but I gotta tell you, I wouldn't be surprised at all if WWE saw that footage of that Michigan State basketball game where that whole fucking crowd was doing the yes chant, and they were probably looking at themselves like, what are we doing here, with this fucking shit? Now, I have no doubt that they had planned to turn Daniel Bryan back into a face and have him turn on the Wyatts eventually anyway. That was 100% in the plans for Daniel Bryan, but I think they were almost speeding this up or maybe pulling the plug on it early because these two guys still have to feud. Once you do the breakup, then Bray and Daniel Bryan have to have a bunch of matches. And I think they could have had a bunch of matches and had a feud without Daniel Bryan joining the Wyatt family. I already thought they had a pretty good storyline in place with Bray Wyatt trying to recruit Daniel Bryan into the Wyatt family, so they could have had great matches based just on that. So the fact that they actually took the time to turn Daniel Bryan heel only to turn him back face 3 weeks later, it seems like they changed this early. We were kind of all expecting as a group, all of us, I think, for something to go down in the Royal Rumble. I mentioned that the two guys could be the last ones in the Rumble, and then Daniel Bryan could say, fuck you, and throw him over the top rope and win the Rumble, and the fucking fans jizz themselves. That's kind of where I thought it was going. Now it looks like with the babyface turn on Raw, these guys will probably have a match at the Royal Rumble. But I hope the two guys can still compete in the Rumble, because if they just have a match and then they can't be in the big Royal Rumble match, that's going to suck. So Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt need to be in this thing, and if they're going to have a singles match against each other, fine. But I would also like to see both of them compete in the Royal Rumble. I would like to see them do something along the lines of, what they did with Bret Hart in 94. Remember, he had the match with Owen against the Quebecers, and Bret got all fucked up. So let's say during the course of what will probably be a pretty good match, Daniel Bryan scores some sort of a quick roll-up and gets a quick 3 count on Bray Wyatt. The fans go nuts. Daniel Bryan wins. It throws the Wyatt family into a rage. Rowan and Harper hit the ring, and all 3 of them just beat the piss out of Daniel Bryan. I mean, fuck him up. I'm talking chairs and table shit. Anything you need to do to get the point across that Daniel Bryan, there is no way that he's going to be able to compete in the Royal Rumble. And let's say they even take it a step further. During the Rumble, they do that famous spot that happens sometimes, used to happen a lot back in the day, where the buzzer would go off and nobody would come out, which is actually what I think they did in 94 with Bret Hart. I think the buzzer went off, nobody came out, and they were like, well, that must have been Bret Hart. Owen fucked his leg up so bad, there's no way he could compete. He's on one leg. It's such a shame that Bret Hart had to miss the Royal Rumble. And then 5 minutes go by, a couple of more guys come out, and then Bret Hart winds up coming out after all. So they could do something like that with Daniel Bryan, where he's just, got the piss beaten out of him earlier on in the show. The fans are pissed. They're fucking screaming online, motherfucking WWE. They had the Wyatts beat the shit out of him, and they're fucking never going to get this guy over. He's never going to win a title, and get the fans thinking that all this is going to do is create a longer feud for Daniel Bryan and the Wyatts. Now Daniel Bryan's going to be pissed because the Wyatts cost him his spot in the Royal Rumble, so the fans are pissed, right? They're screaming online. Of course, they're all going to boycott. Half of them want to drive to Vince McMahon's house and burn the fucking thing down. And then just a few minutes later in the Royal Rumble, the buzzer goes off, and Daniel Bryan comes out after all. He's battered, he's bruised, he gets in the ring, and he just pulls off that underdog victory like we've seen with Chris Benoit or Rey Mysterio Jr. or Bret Hart when he co-won it with Luger the year he had no leg. And then Daniel Bryan becomes the number 1 contender for the WWE title. He'll be challenging for it at WrestleMania, which means he can still continue his feud with Bray Wyatt because we don't even know who he's going to be challenging until after the Elimination Chamber. So I could see it going in that direction, and this is all assuming, of course, Daniel Bryan, he's going to be the guy at WrestleMania 30. I kind of doubted it because I thought poor Daniel Bryan has been stuck in an impossible situation here. Yes, he's over. Yes, the fans go apeshit for him, but he's still not Brock, Rock, Cena, Triple H, Taker. He's just not those guys. And with Brock Lesnar apparently going to be involved in the WWE title picture, as much as Daniel Bryan's over, I don't care. You cannot tell me that in a match between Brock Lesnar, champion, and challenger Daniel Bryan, that Daniel Bryan has any fucking hope in the world of being able to defeat that guy. And in order for Daniel Bryan to win the WWE title at WrestleMania 30, you would think that his opponent is probably going to have to be Brock Lesnar. Who else is the champion going to be? The only other guy it can be is Randy Orton, which I've kind of suspected all along ever since that SummerSlam title victory when he came out and took the title away from Daniel Bryan. I said, I don't know when, I don't know how, but this match will eventually happen again for the WWE title on a big stage, and Daniel Bryan will come out on top. So you have to think, with Brock Lesnar being involved in this, it only allows you one of 3 WWE champions going into WrestleMania for Daniel Bryan to supposedly challenge. It's either going to be Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, or John Cena. And don't count out Batista. I'm not a Batista fan, really, but if they're bringing him back and he's going to be in the Royal Rumble and it's a star of Batista's level and he's getting a Brock Lesnar type contract, you have to wonder they're not going to bring Batista in, pay him all this money with this luxurious contract, and do nothing with him. I almost have Batista as my sleeper pick to win the Royal Rumble. I'm not saying I want him to win the Royal Rumble, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the WWE brings back the animal in this way and gets him over, and he's going to fucking challenge for the title at WrestleMania 30. Who knows? That's unlikely, but I do think it's a possibility, and you have to know the WWE has got to figure out what kind of matchups they want to do here, because they have got great potential, and they can get a lot of matchups done that they never got a chance to with Brock Lesnar, Batista, Randy Orton, and John Cena, like I've said before, all under the same roof at the same time. These guys have never been in the company together as huge stars. Years ago, Brock was a huge star, but the other 3 were on their way up. You know, now they're all mega stars, so you have to wonder what sort of combination of matches they're going to do here, and either have Brock Lesnar take on Randy Orton in some sort of a match for the WWE title, have Brock Lesnar take on Batista. That would be an interesting matchup, but because Batista pretty much filled the role of Brock Lesnar while Brock was gone, and didn't do it nearly as well. I always thought Brock Lesnar was a 10 and Batista was a 3.5. And I think John Cena might owe Brock a rematch. You know, when Brock came back, they made him job right away to Cena, right in that Extreme Rules match, just to say, hey, you're here, you're not going to fucking call the shots. We wanted to make sure he was willing to do business. He was. It seems like maybe he'd get a receipt for that match sometime in the future. So I wouldn't count out another Brock Lesnar-John Cena confrontation either. And like I said before, potentially of all of those situations, I think the one that would give us the best in-ring match would be Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar. And that's actually a match that I think we're going to get, because Randy Orton, he had the match on Raw with Kofi Kingston, he got beat. And let me tell you, first of all, John Cena's dad, you might want to stop going to shows, especially when Randy Orton is there. I mean, how many times has this guy gotten his fucking ass kicked because he went to watch his son wrestle on Raw? Stay the fuck at home. But Randy Orton snaps and beats the shit out of John Cena's dad. It wasn't really that brutal. He just punched him a few times over the railing, and then he acted really, you know, like conflicted about it. Like he's like, oh shit, what the hell did I just do? What are you talking about? You're Randy Orton. You're the Viper. You've punted this guy in the head before. What the hell do you care if you punched him a few times? You're feuding with his son. This is the type of shit that Vipers supposedly do, so don't act surprised that you're capable of this. But I actually think the whole thing was just WWE's way of reminding the fans that, hey, there is a pretty big title matchup at the Royal Rumble, and a lot of us have not been talking much about it. And I think they're just trying to add a little heat for the feud, but I gotta say, you know, I don't think Randy Orton's gonna lose the title. I think for the stage of WrestleMania 30 and the character that John Cena is and how much he means to the WWE, you would think he would have to be champion going into this show, but I have a feeling they have a big, mega huge match or something like that involving Cena that could involve a lot of different guys, including Hogan, so who knows. But as fans, we all have to think about what we would want at WrestleMania 30. I mean, everybody's screaming for Daniel Bryan, push this motherfucker, give him the title. It's kind of a bad time of year, you know, for this, unless this was WWE's plan all along. And if it was, I swear I'm going to go back and play my August and September commentaries over and over and over again in your fucking ears, because I've been saying it from the beginning. They would not fuck over Daniel Bryan and make him fight an uphill battle for so many months for there not to be a payoff. It's coming. The problem is the fans are so fucking impatient. But you're all going to have giant fucking shit-eating grins on your face if Daniel Bryan winds up winning the title at WrestleMania 30. This is a milestone show. What is the main event going to be? Is it going to be for the WWE title, or is it going to be a match between two megastars? So as much as you love Daniel Bryan, like I do, you have to take in consideration what kind of show we're going to see at WrestleMania. Do you want to see Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton? Is that what you want? Do you want that as your main event? Do you want Brock Lesnar to defend the WWE title against Daniel Bryan? I don't think you do. Or do you want Daniel Bryan versus John Cena? If you want Daniel Bryan to win the title at WrestleMania 30, those are the only 3 matches he's going to be involved in. There is no other way. It won't be Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt for the title. It won't be Daniel Bryan versus Big Show for the title or anything like that. It's going to be Daniel Bryan against one of those 3 guys, period. Unless, of course, the one scenario I'm not considering is maybe Daniel Bryan is already WWE champion going into WrestleMania. So maybe he loses the Royal Rumble somehow, or somebody else wins it, and then Daniel Bryan ends up getting some other opportunity. There's still the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. How do these Elimination Chamber matches even work? I don't even remember what happened last year. Do they have one Elimination Chamber match, or do they have two of them? We only have one world title now, so is the world title defended in the Elimination Chamber? I guess it would be, because you wouldn't have the chamber match to determine the number one contender, because the winner of the Royal Rumble is the number one contender. So anyway, it looks like Randy Orton, or whoever comes out of the Royal Rumble as champion, is going to have to defend their title in the chamber. And Daniel Bryan most definitely will have a spot in that. But what about Brock Lesnar's title shot? Or do you just put Brock in the chamber match and you say, fine, you want a title shot? That's your title shot. You're going to get in the chamber with 8 other guys and try to win the title that way. Maybe somebody screws Brock Lesnar out of it, or maybe Brock loses and it's somebody else's fault, causing him to feud with him going into WrestleMania. Or you could just win it. You know, it's so funny how a million different ways this can go. So I guess we're really not going to learn anything, at least until the Royal Rumble is over, and we at least have a winner in place for the Royal Rumble. Because once that happens, it's going to be much easier to see their direction and their line of thinking here. But until we know who's going to win the Royal Rumble and what their fucking overall plans are, you know, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. And now that Daniel Bryan is back a babyface again, WWE seems as if they might have taken notice that, holy shit, this guy really is fucking over after all, and the very thought and the idea of 80+ thousand fans in unison screaming yes, yes, yes can make for an amazing and unbelievable picture at WrestleMania. And it's probably a moment that the WWE is thinking about long and hard. And it's probably making them pretty hard, too. I know how the WWE thinks. I can see things through WWE's eyes. When Vince McMahon or anybody in charge saw that footage of that Michigan State basketball game and all those people going, yes, 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 they were envisioning that same scenario, only in the Superdome with 80,000 people. And they were like, holy shit, we need to make a moment like this. And it's one of the few things in wrestling that's caught on in pop culture, you know, which we haven't seen since the Attitude Era when everybody loved wrestling. So for everybody out there that's on the WWE's case, you know, to push Daniel Bryan, you know, tell me what you would like to see. I gave you all those scenarios. Any of those are most likely going to happen. I can't see any other scenario other than those happening. So what do you want to see? If you want to see Daniel Bryan win the title, you tell me how you would like to see him win it. So that's enough about Daniel Bryan and the Royal Rumble. We're not going to really know any more until a couple more weeks when, you know, the Royal Rumble is over. The other big story that took place that I wanted to come up here and talk about was the first inductee has been named for this year's Hall of Fame. And I just talked about the Hall of Fame in my last commentary a couple days ago, and I mentioned this man's name. It's going to be the Ultimate Warrior. I don't really like him. I never have. I think he's a fucking idiot. But, you know, at this stage of our lives, you can't cling to, you know, petty differences like that. The Ultimate Warrior was a huge star. I mean, the WWE went as far as, I mean, they were so bitter towards him that they made that DVD, the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD, which was actually a good DVD. But it was basically made to trash the Ultimate Warrior and talk about what an unprofessional piece of shit he was. And I've always been surprised that the WWE actually had the balls to make that DVD. I think they regretted it, and I think they felt bad about it, and now that it's so many years later and the WWE is, you know, just think of Vince McMahon. He's an old man now, you know. There's no reason for him to hold grudges. You know, he's making and kissing and making up with everybody for the good of the company and for the good of the legacy of the WWE. And if you want to have a Hall of Fame, you cannot have all these guys not be in it. So now you got Bruno, and now you got the Ultimate Warrior. Hey, it's much deserved. I wasn't a fan of his style. If you're a fan of good in-ring wrestling, you are not going to like the Ultimate Warrior because he's terrible. But he was a superhero, cartoon, comic book character that came to life on WWF TV every single week, and it had fucking kids. I mean, he was taking over Hulk Hogan's popularity. His matches would last 2 minutes. You wouldn't even get a chance to see how bad he really sucked because he was in and out of the ring before you even noticed he was there. Very Goldberg-like. They could hide what he lacked in in-ring talent by having his matches just be big squashes where they highlight his strength and other things like that, and he was just so good at being the character. I mean, his promos were fucking insane. He made no sense, but you still listened to him, you know, and thought he was a good promo cutter, but you didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. He was very good at his character, so good, in fact, that he changed his name legally to Warrior, which I've always thought was nuts, and his run was amazing. His run could have even been more amazing, but the problem with the Warrior is that he was kind of an egomaniac piece of shit that really, truly didn't appreciate the business and certainly didn't listen. None of the veterans liked him, or anybody who had to work with him really enjoyed their time with him because he was hard to work with, and he was uncooperative sometimes. He was dangerous in the ring. He just didn't know what the fuck he was doing. But all of that does not matter. The level of his stardom makes him a first ballot Hall of Famer, period. You know, it's long overdue. He should have already been in there. But of course, the Hall of Fame is political, and and you have to wait for your time and wait for the right guy to want to make amends, and then of course strike the right deal, make it acceptable for all parties. Probably attach a DVD to this, and then bring him back in. So I think this is WWE's way of making amends with the Warrior. We're sorry we made that DVD. We were just pissed off at you for some of the things that went on back in the past, but none of that matters anymore. Your legacy is what's important, and let's let the fans and give the fans a time to remember you and a chance to see exactly what your character was all about, because you're talking about 20, 25 years ago now, and a lot of modern wrestling fans in their teens and early 20s weren't even born when this guy was at his peak. That's pretty amazing to me, because the Ultimate Warrior's days of being WWE champion to me seems like yesterday. But I'm happy for him. I'm trying to do just what the WWE is doing and to stop holding all these grudges. I've never really liked the Ultimate Warrior. Hulk Hogan, severely disappointed me as a wrestling fan with his behavior and the way he seems like he's flushing his legacy down the toilet, acting like a buffoon and dating girls that look just like his daughter, and just fucking weird shit. Shit that a guy his age shouldn't be doing. And I've just been so fucking pissed off at him. But even the fan in me can let all of that go. To see WrestleMania 30 and have Hulk Hogan and potentially Roddy Piper be involved in this thing somehow. That, in a sick way, actually brings a smile to my face. Maybe the two guys can host the show. They don't have a match. Whatever the fuck they do there, I'm actually interested to see it. And it's actually going to be, I don't want to say emotional, but it's going to be a special time for me. I watched WrestleMania 1 from the very first one. I remember the early 80s vividly, and to see something like this, to see those two guys, on the same stage that they were 30 years before, to me is going to be a big deal. I'm going to be excited to see it. I'm also going to be excited to see the Warrior go into the Hall of Fame. Now let's get some speculation going. Who's going to induct the Ultimate Warrior in the Hall of Fame? I mean, Hulk Hogan is going to be around for this thing. Last I remember, these two guys were not on good terms. I think they were fucking barking at each other on YouTube or Twitter or something like that. So Hogan and Warrior, I don't think even like each other. But I would think that Hulk Hogan would actually be a good person to induct him. Hulk Hogan's already a Hall of Famer. He had one of the most famous WrestleMania matches of all time with the Ultimate Warrior. If these two guys could personally put their differences aside, I think Hulk Hogan would be a really good person to induct the Ultimate Warrior, because who else could there be? I mean, really, who else could there be? What other guy in the company right now, or what other wrestling figure that's currently still alive, do you think would make for a good inductor for the Ultimate Warrior? Think of the guys he feuded with. Honky Tonk Man? No. Rick Rude? He's dead. Randy Savage? He's dead. Hulk Hogan? He's still alive. I mean, his run in the WWE was not very long, so the list is short of guys that he has history with that could be a good inductor for him. So I think Hulk Hogan makes the only logical sense here. You just have to wonder, can these guys get along? They're going to have to see each other at WrestleMania weekend. Hogan will be at the Hall of Fame. Warrior will be at the Hall of Fame. It should be interesting, the backstage dynamic, and if these guys, and shit, Kevin Nash doesn't like the Warrior either. What if Nash is fucking around during this thing? Are these three guys going to kick each other's asses or something? So I don't know. It should be interesting to say the least, but I really sure would like to know who's going to induct the Ultimate Warrior. And the only other thing I can see happening is, how sometimes they just have a random person induct the Hall of Famer, maybe a celebrity or a wrestler that worked a similar style. They could just go that way with the Ultimate Warrior, but, if they actually want to have his induction meaningful, and he's going to be the headliner and the show closer, what other better name can you have to induct him than Hulk Hogan? So Hulk Hogan is on my list, my number one choice to induct the Ultimate Warrior. Hopefully, Terry and Jim can fucking work out their differences, and Hogan can agree to induct him, and hopefully it can be another fence that has been mended in the pro wrestling business. It's filled with so much hate and tragedy and disappointment and, crap. It's nice to see some happy endings coming out here. We had one last year with Bruno and the WWE kissing and making up. For a fan like me, it warmed my heart to see that. So maybe we can see something similar this year with Warrior and Hogan. And who else is going in? With Warrior coming in, you have to think that he's going to be the headliner, like I mentioned in my last commentary. So is there room for anybody else? A lot of people want to see WWE bring in Sting. I've wanted to see them induct The Undertaker this year, all year long. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. I don't know if the WWE is going to be able to go with another mega name for this WrestleMania. Looks like the Ultimate Warrior might be the show closer here. And I hope it's going to be good. And I think it's going to be good. And congratulations to the Ultimate Warrior. Like him or not, he's an icon in the business, should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago, and this is exactly where he belongs. And I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that the WWE is doing this. And regardless of politics or past feelings, it looks like the WWE is looking past all of that, and they just want to get the men that deserve to be in there in there, and I commend them for doing that, and I think it's awesome. It's better for the fans, it's better for the Hall of Fame's legitimacy, and they're doing the right thing, and congrats to the Warrior. I'm happy for you. Can't wait to see the induction. And by the way, WWE Network, I'm sure they probably are going to do this anyway, but I would like to be able to see the entire Hall of Fame live on the network this year. I cannot stand that shitty hour-long edited USA Network version, chock full of commercials, and it sucks. So I'm pretty sure the WWE will already give us this thing on the network and not have to wait for the DVD and probably not even air it on USA. Fuck that. Just put it on the network so us fans can see the whole thing as it happens live. As far as what else happened on Raw before I get out of here, the New Age Outlaws turned heel. Didn't I say that was going to happen? I mentioned that when they, on the old school Raw, when they came out there with CM Punk. You know, I was like, the Outlaws are going to turn on him. He's going to be feuding with Triple H most likely, although I don't think we've seen Triple H in recent weeks, but apparently that's the direction they're going, so it would make sense that the Outlaws, you know, turn on Punk. I was surprised to see the Outlaws even out there, you know, with Punk to face the Shield. I just thought they were a one-shot deal for the old school Raw, but they came out there and did their thing, had their match with Punk, and then when he went to go make the tag, the Outlaws just jumped off the ring apron and said, fuck you, and walked to the back. And then the little announcer tried to interview him, and they said, we got 2 words for CM Punk. So anyway, they're pissed at CM Punk. I don't know why, but I did mention recently that I could easily see the Outlaws turning on him because of their association with Triple H and DX. And does this mean we're going to see the Outlaws more on TV? It was great to see him on Old School Raw. It was great to see him last week. Billy Gunn is still in great shape, and Road Dogg is still every bit as good on the mic as he was 15 years ago. So I never complain about seeing the Outlaws, but I'm wondering why they're involved with the storyline with Punk. It's got to be tied into Triple H, but, you know, with what they did with him on Raw, you'd have to think you might see the Outlaws again. And this might be a good opportunity for Billy. You know, even at his age, a lot of people say he is still an amazing athlete and he looks in great shape. I wouldn't mind at all to see CM Punk take on Billy Gunn 1 week on Raw, maybe next week. I think Billy would give him a good match, and I think it would be a good match, so I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. Punk and Road Dogg, maybe, but I think I'd prefer to see Billy Gunn and CM Punk. As far as the Royal Rumble goes, the card that I have in front of me here, still, of course, John Cena versus Randy Orton, WWE title, and Big Show versus Brock Lesnar, and probably now Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt. And then, of course, the big Royal Rumble match itself. So that's 4 matches. I don't know how many more we're going to get. But the card looks okay, I guess. You know, it'll be interesting to see how Daniel Bryan plays into this year's Royal Rumble, if he's going to win it, if he's going to come close to winning it, if he's going to be involved in the finish, and whatever the hell they have planned for him. I think the WWE might be realizing how over he is. When he turned on Bray Wyatt in that cage on Monday, the crowd shit themselves. I love the way he did it, too, by the way. Bray had him in his finisher, and Daniel Bryan just counters out of it, pushes him away, and just shakes his head. Fuck you, takes off the janitor outfit, and beats the crap out of Bray Wyatt, climbs up to the top of the cage, and everybody's chanting, yes, yes, yes. And I guess the cage door was locked, so the other guys couldn't get in. Is that the story? I like the idea somebody mentioned on Facebook of maybe Daniel Bryan secretly conspired with Kane to get the cage door locked. That way, when he has his confrontation with Bray Wyatt, and he says, fuck you to him, that he's not going to have to worry about the other fuckers running in there and kicking his ass. So whether that even happens or not, I'd like to see Kane get back involved here, at least for WrestleMania. I mean, he's walking around in that suit. Has he even wrestled? He's not even had a match since he's lost the mask, has he? Unless he's wrestling on the house shows. So I'm sure we're going to see in the upcoming weeks a lot of internal storylines with the Authority, you know, with Vince and Stephanie and Triple H and Maddox and Kane and all these guys. You know, there's going to be some turmoil, I'm sure, brewing, and I'm sure it all factors into the WrestleMania plans. So that's it for me today. I am tired of talking. I've given you guys a lot of commentaries in the past couple of days. This will definitely be my last one, at least for a week. I'll be back up here after the January 20th edition of Monday Night Raw and after Batista's return. And what exactly happens with all of that, I'm assuming he's probably going to have a confrontation with Alberto Del Rio, and Alberto is going to be the first guy lined up in front of Batista for him to squash to get him ready for whoever his big WrestleMania opponent is going to be. So Alberto, get ready to take an ass kicking because you're about to do some jobs. Until next week, peace.